I would want to ask you, high school dropout, what makes you believe that your pay is merely $444? It indicates that you are no longer a burden to us. Leave. Put differently, you're let go. When payday finally arrived, I noticed that my account had only received $444. Vice President Daniel scoffed and fired me without warning. How come? Terminated? Even so, what does that mean? Performance-based evaluation is the foundation of our organization. Did you really believe you could afford to be lazy and yet be paid? We just cannot afford to retain such a worthless employee. Now leave this spot and remove all traces of yourself. You are useless. Daniel moved away from me and smashed his hand against the desk. This is just AB, right? Though fine, my fists twitched with wrath. I've exhausted all options. All right, whatever happens, I'll remove any traces of myself. It doesn't concern me. Daniel would later crawl back to me, sobbing. Henry is my name. My 40th birthday was last month. Upon reflection, the upbringing I received was quite challenging. My brother Nathan and I were taken in by relatives after our parents passed away when we were little, but nobody showed us much love. Our lives were always crammed full of restrictions and discomforts. I was teased and called names at school all the time. Since his birth, Nathan has been weak and frequently absent from school. Being impoverished was difficult enough, but Nathan's lack of attendance made him stick out even more in his class. Motivated by a desire to keep Nathan safe, I put a lot of effort into my studies and athletics, pushing myself to excel in both areas. I was the class president in elementary school, and I worked really hard every morning to be the anchor in the sports day relay. Upon learning that Nathan was Henry's brother, the bullies who had been pursuing him began to retreat. I started junior high school right as perceptions about us started to shift. Even if my coursework and extracurricular activities were harder, I made a lot of effort to stay up. My classmates began treating me with ease by the time I was in my third year. I received a resounding endorsement from everyone when I stood for student council president. I still recall how thrilled I was to be accepted by everyone at last. I went to the nearby high school because I was an excellent student. To find out what really attracted me, I wanted to go to a private school, but my foster father wouldn't let me. Nevertheless, I was fortunate to have companions who could relate to me, and I felt like I was still young. Nathan had to be hospitalized after collapsing. The hospital expenses surprised me with how much more they were. In essence, our relatives said we were not their responsibility and declined to offer any assistance. My foster parents, who were throwing us meager treatment funds, even frowned. Nathan's condition was unstable, and I was overcome with a strong sense of dread as I considered how long this unknown stay would last. Ultimately, I had no choice but to leave high school. Nathan had to work a part-time job in order to pay for his hospital costs, which was far from adequate. I lost hold of the bright, promising youth I had once clung to. I apologize, Nathan said. I was packing away some of my home-worn clothing. What are you apologizing for? I smiled at Nathan, trying not to show how tired I was, but he seemed hurt that I had to quit school and go to work for him. But my only family was Nathan. Being the older brother, it comes naturally to work hard for my family. You're like a superhuman who does exceptionally well in school and athletics, but you had to give up a lot because of me, this frail, costly burden. I don't even deserve to live this way. Stop it. By mistake, I yelled. Sorry. No, you are not at blame. In actuality, I've been able to push myself so far because of you. Okay, so this is it. You should have this. I gave Nathan something that I had taken out of a paper bag. His expression brightened instantly. Whoa, the game I've been craving is this one. However, wasn't it pricey? Never undervalue the impact of my work. Well, use this to lift your spirits. Yeah, thanks, Henry. As I observed Nathan gleefully examining the gaming system, I resolved that enough was enough. I currently work as a contract employee for a cleaning firm, but my senior colleague and I are heading to the office of a major IT company today. I was observing the office atmosphere closely as I went through the unsorted trash bins. Everyone appeared to be completely absorbed in their work, crouched over their computers and working frantically. My senior colleague remarked, "This place has a gloomy vibe, doesn't it?" I warily questioned, "Have you done cleaning in these kinds of companies a lot?" as we collaborated. "Yes, it's true that more and more of these computer companies are opening up these days," he said, winking at the stench filling the air. Abruptly, I saw a large pamphlet in the combustible waste. The word programming was inscribed on it. "Do you know what programming is?" "No idea, but that's recyclable. So pull it out of the burnable trash," he said. Got it. Even though I kept working as instructed, the phrase programming stayed with me. Upon concluding yet another demanding workday, I hurried to the nearby bookstore. I did a quick search for the book I wanted to read. There it is. It must be a job in demand if businesses like this are expanding, as my senior stated. I noticed that my interest in programming was growing. Perhaps this could work to my advantage. As I turned the pages through the pages of technical jargon, I started to get excited and hopeful again, just like I did in school. I therefore began studying programming assiduously in the lulls between jobs, forcing myself to stay awake whenever any new, obscure technical term popped up. I kept studying, going without sleep. I continued this demanding schedule for 2 years. Lastly, I was able to pass the Fundamental Information Technology Engineer examination, which is required in order to become a certified software engineer. After achieving this, as just 1 out of 5 candidates passed the exam, I carried on with my studies and earned a number of additional system-related certifications that are necessary for any software engineer. I started out as a software engineer and gained experience by working for a number of system development and game production organizations. I was in charge of a government-affiliated website's operations when I was employed for a large telecom corporation. And once more, I was given the responsibility of developing the system for a well-known app game while working for a subcontractor. As a software engineer, these experiences have really increased my confidence. With a helpful employer and encouraging coworkers, I had a busy but happy life. I left the company with a heavy heart, but I had a purpose in mind. I now work for a firm that develops video games. Just a few years after its founding, this firm published its first game, which went on to become an international hit and was even approved for use as an official game in well-known esports competitions. Since then, the business has kept releasing shooters, role-playing games, and role-playing games, quickly becoming a challenger to big-name game companies. The organization is split into 2 departments: systems, which is in charge of game creation, and management, which is in charge of internal infrastructure and general affairs. I work in the systems department's game programming team. It really is the center of a corporation that makes video games. Daniel, the vice president, currently oversees the company's management. Daniel is an intelligent individual, but he also believes strongly in academic qualifications and has a propensity to be self-righteous. Daniel seemed to take great satisfaction in his ability to manage better than everyone else. He had previously been a founder member of a startup, but because he had no prior experience in the gaming industry, he made a lot of unnecessary demands without really knowing what he was getting into. "Hey, how's the game that's supposed to come out in 2 months going?" "Well, by early next week, we should have a sample ready. Get it done by tomorrow." "How come?" But take note, I do mean it when I say tomorrow. Indeed. In this field, when meeting deadlines is crucial, working overtime is just part of the work. For this reason, efficient scheduling is crucial. But you have to rework the entire plan when unforeseen chores arise like this one. Consequently, there was an enduring sense of fatigue that pervaded the office. I was sick of this environment, so I made it a point to help my coworkers and do my work quickly. As a result, I frequently left the workplace on time. It was the same today. Aurora, a new employee, shouted out to me as I was about to leave the office after finishing all of my chores. "Hi, Henry. What's going on?" She was in charge of the management department's internal systems, and even though she was working nonstop, She always seemed to exude energy and positivity. Her eyes met mine directly, her features defined in a gentle brown. "Who are you really, Henry?" "What? What an impromptu query. Even though everyone in this place is overworked, you always manage to do everything and get out on time. It's honestly difficult to believe." Was she trying to be ironic? Aurora smiled broadly at me, as if to conceal a plan, and said, "Since you're so good at your job, I have something I'd really like your help with." I wasn't exactly sure what she was trying to tell me. "Hello. Good morning." First thing in the morning. The formerly tense environment had considerably subsided, even if my team was still overburdened with work, and there were even times when we were able to have a little conversation. Aurora took the initiative to design and deploy a productive work management system around a month ago. She had long questioned the particular working methods of this sector and had gone to management with her concerns, saying it wouldn't be shocking if some workers died from overwork if things kept going this way. There has been a noticeable drop in overtime since the system's introduction. Daniel was happy with this accomplishment, of course. "Well, we'll avoid a problem for the staff members because of this system. All of it is due to you, Aurora. We ought to have a celebration someday soon." "Thank you, but in all honesty, it's because the team worked together." No. Like Henry, the person over there, who was attempting to escape, these people did nothing. Just as I turned to walk away, Daniel called my name. Instinctively, I spun around. I get annoyed with people like you who just give up and leave on time. You pretend to be above everything, even though you know that everyone else is working extremely hard. No cooperation among teammates. You're just putting on a brave face and pushing the responsibility for your work on others. Isn't that right? I felt shivers down my spine as he sneered, yet there was no laughter in his eyes. "Henry, Daniel is. Did you know that Aurora is merely a high school dropout? In this society, a dropout is garbage. Spending time with someone like him could be detrimental to your promising career. You ought to be selective about the people you associate with. For instance, someone like myself who works in a top-tier position and graduated from a prestigious college. Speak what you want to say." Daniel's hatred for me was growing every day, but I didn't care to interact with him. For instance, I was the only one who was unaware of changes to the company's holiday schedule, as if I should report for duty even on my days off. And I also never received the year-end tax adjustment paperwork. These were obviously Daniel's directives. The other employees seemed to recognize this was Daniel's doing, but since he was practically the main authority in the organization, no one dared to say up. They were confined to spectator mode. Even though I couldn't help but experience a range of emotions, I kept my entire attention on my work. I didn't care as long as the work was completed. However, at about that same moment, something unexpected happened. I went to the ATM today, payday, to take out some cash before I went to the workplace. I was taken back for a second as I glanced swiftly at my bank book. After wiping my eyes, I took another look at the bank book. How come? What does this signify exactly? It was just $444 that was deposited. Is there a chance that there is a system error? I hurried to the company after exiting the ATM quickly. "Daniel, could you please explain this?" HR instructed me to go to the vice president's room as soon as I got to the office, so I hurried over without stopping to gather my breath. Daniel mumbled something ridiculous in a tone that seemed strangely calm. "What is there to clarify? Here is our assessment of you. Your compensation is determined by the worth of the task you do. It's reasonable for someone who doesn't work well in a team, hardly works at all, and adds nothing to the business. You salary thief should actually be thankful that you're receiving anything at all." My body flushed from the sheer audacity of his comments, but Daniel didn't stop there. He persisted in moving forward. "All right, Mr. High School Dropout, I have a question for you. Why is $444, in your opinion?" "That means show to get rid of a burden like you," Daniel remarked, dismissively waving his right hand as if shooing away a nuisance. "Put differently, You're let go. Do you really believe you can just get by here and get paid? No, I'm not blind. We don't have money to squander on pointless things. Now, remove all traces of yourself and leave. After receiving this unquestionable announcement of my termination, I departed the vice president's office in shock, but determined to carry out a plan I had been covertly mulling over. I started organizing my desk by myself after hearing my teammates' repeated warnings so loudly that they seemed to be echoing in my ears. Suddenly, Aurora cried out, "Henry." "Oh, Aurora, I appreciate all of your effort." Aurora was wearing a severe expression. "Why?" I took a careful look at her. There was anger in her eyes, but also sadness. However, I hesitated for a while before responding to her query, adding, "Aurora, I'm sorry, but there's something I need to ask you to do." I looked at the clock once more. The time was 10:00 a.m. I hadn't slept that soundly in a very long time. Daniel's harassing had prevented me from getting home at a decent hour for the last few months. Being able to live a typical human existence again felt amazing. I was contemplating having a haircut for the first time in a long time when my phone loudly buzzed on the bedside table. I quickly looked at the screen before pressing the call button. "Hello." "Hey, Henry." Anger was in Daniel's high-pitched voice. "You really did it this time." "What are you talking about?" "Avoid acting foolish. Anyhow, come back right now. The business is seriously in trouble." "What happened?" "It appears that you were the one who devised the work management system that Aurora produced. She filled me in on everything. Please return here." Daniel sounded desperate as well as angry, but I just scratched my head and said, "Yeah, that's correct. It was me who designed that system." I asked her if she had made it or not. "Why would you do anything like that, Henry? And why did you ruin the framework?" Daniel was growing increasingly enraged. "Well, Daniel, didn't you say that I should remove all traces of myself when I leave?" "I deleted everything I had made, just as you said." On the other end of the telephone, I heard Daniel gasp. "Yes, that is what I said, but this is sabotage. As vice president, I'm telling you to return right now." "I'm sorry, but I won't be coming back." I hung up the phone after that since I thought the whole thing was silly. I fall back into bed and think about the talk I had with Aurora 3 months prior. Aurora stopped me shortly after work and asked for my assistance with something. "What do you want me to help with?" "I want you to team up with me to create a certain system." "A system?" "Yes." Aurora then launched into a passionate explanation of all the issues with the company's current state and the work environment. I could only nod in agreement. Aurora's eyes intensified in determination. "In my department, we are in the process of creating a new work management system. If this approach is put into place, it ought to significantly alter the way we operate." With those words, Aurora reached into her left hand to get some documents from a clear folder. "This is an outline of the system." I gave it some thought as I turned through the documents she gave me. "All right, I'll help you, but I have one condition. If you agree to it, I'll build almost the entire system myself." "What? Everything? Isn't that a little excessive?" "Well, of course, there will be parts where I'll need your help, Aurora." Surprised, Aurora's eyes grew wide. Then I explained to her my situation. I didn't want my name to be mentioned at any point during the system's development, as that would have revealed my true emotions. When I closed my eyes, I was brought back to the months I had spent working with Aurora, doing endless tests, locating issues, and fixing them. We meticulously carried out these actions again, progressively modifying the system. To be honest, developing this system was really difficult, but I persevered because I liked being a software engineer and because Aurora's enthusiasm motivated me even more. In addition, I intended to enhance the business. I picked up my phone once more and placed a call. "Hello?" There came a voice over the telephone that I had been longing to hear. "Sorry to bother you at such a tough time." "It's all right. Above all, I sincerely apologize for the inconvenience I gave you." For a brief while, Aurora was silent. You deserve more recognition. It still defies my acceptance. Why were you forced to quit the company? I have lost interest in the company. In addition, Mr. Carter, you ought to tell the president everything. Give up lurking in the dark. You ought to be acknowledged. It was Aurora's remarks that silenced me. My phone vibrated the following day while I was getting ready in the restroom. It was Daniel once more. His tone had altered drastically from the previous day when I reluctantly took the phone. He was sobbing almost completely. Oh, please, I beg you. Aid us. I've been checking with the staff since yesterday, but we can't seem to get the system back up and running. And Mr. Carter came back today, and he is very angry about the state of affairs. Kindly stop by for a short while. I got chills down my spine from the desperation in his words. However, I consented to visit the office. It was completely disorganized when I entered the office for the first time in a long time. The phones kept ringing, and a few staff members were engaged in lengthy conversations on their personal phones. Daniel ran over as soon as he saw me. Mr. Carter and Aurora stood behind him, staring with icy eyes. Thank you so much, Henry. You've saved my life. As Daniel stated this, he attempted to cling to me, but I deftly sidestepped him and moved to stand behind Aurora and Mr. Carter. Mr. Carter, my sincere apologies for causing such mayhem. I am solely to blame. Although Aurora has told me everything, I would still like to speak with you directly. What specifically transpired? Mr. Carter gave me a look, but did not say anything critical. I took a deep breath and started telling Daniel all the abuse and harassment I had experienced. Daniel shot back, saying, What? The fact that you broke the system remains unaffected. Give up attempting to assign responsibility. I was so fed up with Daniel's pestering that I felt compelled to blow up the system. Nevertheless, given the potential harm to the business, I saw it as a form of vengeance for the abuse. I've provided Aurora with the information required to fix the system. I turned to look at Aurora, and she stared down at it. What happened to the recovery data? Nevertheless, she stated, when I heard from you that your salary was only $444, I couldn't believe it, in response to my question. Aurora turned to face Daniel at that point and said, Henry is a really gifted software developer. He is deserving of even greater praise. As opposed to that, you harassed him to the point of annoyance and even attempted to eject him. Daniel, I wanted you to genuinely realize how awful your acts have been. However, Aurora inhaled deeply to regain her composure. I fully accept responsibility for the chaos that resulted within the organization as a result of my negligence of the recovery process. Even though Henry left the recovery data behind, I did it of my own volition. I sincerely apologize. Henry should not be the target of any punishment. Instead, it should be me. She stood up straight and made a deep bow. Daniel started talking, and at last Mr. Carter broke his stillness. Startled, Daniel turned to face him. Mr. Carter stated calmly yet angrily, You are responsible for this entire fiasco. Daniel tried to object, but Mr. Carter disregarded him and turned to face Aurora. I want you to look into this. Find out from the other staff members if he has done anything else improper. Your insights will help me determine the best line of action. Daniel fell to the ground in defeat, recognizing he could not argue his way out of this. Then Mr. Carter turned to face me, saying, Henry, I want to talk to you by yourself. When I initially walked into the president's office, I noticed that it was stocked with video game titles that the firm had created over the years. I made a deep bow. I'm sorry, Mr. Carter, for making such a fuss. Everything was an idea of mine. It had nothing to do with Aurora. I'm willing to take any and all penalties. Why do you always do this? Mr. Carter yelled in annoyance, his tone having changed from one of calmness. I looked up. My younger brother Nathan was there, looking pained. Yes, my brother Nathan is the president of this game production company. Henry, you've always been this way, giving yourself up and attempting to keep everyone else out of danger. Do you have any idea how often seeing you like that has made me feel hurt as your brother?" I could only stare down silently, realizing for the first time how Nathan really felt. Nathan kept me going even though he saw me in this state, which just made him hate himself for feeling helpless and unworthy. "Henry, I'm nothing like you. All I am is a failure." Nathan was always irritated with me, even after he was released from the hospital, and he started to avoid me more and more. I'm trying my best for Nathan, but in the end, I'm only causing him more pain. At that point, Nathan's health was largely stable, so he made the decision to launch a game production company with some internet friends who shared his interests. Nathan built a string of successful games very rapidly because of his extraordinary imagination. As the business expanded quickly and became a significant organization, he faced more pressure as president. Nathan eventually had another hospital stay as a result of his health declining due to stress. Nathan had briefed me on the state of the company, and the performance of the company started to deteriorate at the time of his illness. Despite my desire to assist, I was certain that Nathan would never want me to get involved directly. So I made the decision to join the company in secret. But I also realized that too much activity would just make Nathan more upset. I made the decision to labor in the background with the exclusive goal of raising the organization's performance. "Did you really think that would make me happy, Henry?" Nathan's eyes shot straight through me, piercing with a mixture of despair and rage. "To you, I'm still just your sickly little brother, aren't I? But my past self is no longer me. I was really irritated when I first learned that you had come to work for my company." Nathan kept going, balling his fists. "Even after becoming an adult and the president of a company like this, I thought you still only saw me as your weak little brother." Tears were pooling in his eyes. "I'm not as helpless as you once believed. Did you not notice that today?" Nathan moved to get closer to me. "We're a real family, so you don't have to act like a superhero in secret." Rather, he grabbed my hand and gave it a firm squeeze. "Will you help support the company with me from now on?" I was unable to look him in the eye as tears welled up in my eyes. It has been 1 month since the disastrous system. Daniel was let go from the organization with good reason. Nathan had first met him when he founded the business. Having worked in consulting before, he gained Nathan's trust by teaching him everything there was to know about management. However, that was only his public persona. According to Aurora's research, Daniel had been working covertly to take over the company. He had changed the rights to his advantage and had planned with partners to purposefully harm the company's performance in order to remove Nathan from his role as president. After being fired from the company, Daniel allegedly made an effort to use his background and experience to work as a freelance management consultant. However, he had trouble finding employment because of his conceited demeanor and dubious character. He's currently working part-time jobs to make ends meet, and I chanced to notice him directing traffic on the street the other day. Who, of all people, would have guessed Daniel? Regarding myself, I accepted Nathan's invitation to come back to the company and helped him out by joining the board and working as a software developer. Although it appeared that everyone in the workplace had previously felt that Nathan and I were brothers, it was nevertheless a great relief to be able to express this openly. After going through this recent struggle, Aurora and I were able to communicate our feelings to one another and began dating. I swore I would never injure people who were important to me again after thinking back on the current circumstance, which I could not have predicted when I first started working for the organization. In retrospect, I see that I have been bearing a great deal of the weight alone. I've seen firsthand how giving up everything for my family may ultimately hurt them and even people I care about. My family and loved ones mean the world to me, and this recent upheaval has made that clear to me. Together with the individuals that mean most to me, I want to make things that make a lot of people happy in the future, no matter what barriers or difficulties we may encounter.